Welcome to Monday Night Therapy with John and Todd. We're back this week. I missed last week, didn't I?
I think we
Was
both
last
missed last week, John.
It was the 20th. It was March 13th. Yeah, last week I missed because of severe head pain. Let's just say that. You get old like we are, Todd, and all the days just run together. Every day's the same as the other one. It's just a ball of mush.
I feel that way. I feel
Do
that
you?
way.
Do you? You were
Well,
supposed to. You were supposed to counter with something.
I guess maybe not quite to the extent you're experiencing, but we were talking before we came on the air, and you had mentioned how you journal every day into your phone and then transcribe it, and I do something very similar to that. So I guess that's how I keep track. At least I know if it's Friday or Saturday. But maybe our purpose isn't as great as it once was when we were younger.
Our purpose?
Our purpose.
Oh my God.
Well, now we're just providing therapy to people.
Well, that's true.
It used to be that I had to go and produce something on a daily basis, so I could generate some income. It kept me very focused.
Well, that's true. I still have to do that. Okay,
Well,
we should go into Nebraska football because that's what people want to hear about. Spring practice is starting. Matt Rhule got up and spoke with some people. You know what? The one thing that irritated me the most about Matt Rhule getting up and speaking.
Was he wearing his wonky little pullover vesty thing?
He was kind of wearing that. He was wearing shorts, but it wasn't that. It was the photos that the papers choose to. You take thousands of photos of coaches, and the photos you used are just the shittiest ever. It just bugs me. I don't know if anybody noticed. There's like one of him with like some kind of weird look on his face, and I thought you could have taken 86 billion different photos and used them. I know it's a nitpicking point, but it really bothers me how people present a coach. Every picture of Bo Pelini ever was him screaming at somebody. I'm pretty sure he only did that 18 hours a day and not 24.
Well, I think there is some truth to that. And I don't know. I don't know what the image is that they're trying to project of Coach Rhule. We always, or you, I guess, have joked quite a bit about that Ewok look with his little, pullover hoodie vesty thing. But, the guy has his constant, 5 o'clock shadow. But when they introduced him early on and he had a suit and tie on, I thought the guy looked pretty doggone sharp. And I'm kind of with you, but how much of that's the media? How much is that the image that he wants to project? I mean, it never bothered the previous guy to show up at a press conference with a dip of chew in his lip, and I didn't think that was too coach-like either. But, hey, Coach Rhule has, first day of practice. I think one of the things that impressed me in what little I saw of the follow-up from his comments and stuff is that the man actually answers questions. He gives detailed answers to his questions. There isn't a coach in the United States of America that doesn't have a little bit of that coach speak. But, his answers weren't, it didn't revolve around all those cliches and that kind of stuff. He actually gave some detailed responses to the questions that were asked of him by the media. So that's kind of refreshing.
He also started out by just going into, two players suspended, Tommi Hill and Anthony Grant.
Yeah. What do you think of that, John?
Well, I think am I asking you?
Yeah.
Yes, I am. I brought it up, so you get to ask the question. You get to respond to it.
Okay. Well, first of all, you kind of hate to see, who basically has been your most productive running back the last couple of seasons. You don't want to see him suspended for suspended is a big deal. I think sometimes that gets overused, but coaches really do not like to suspend players. And, in essence, what that means is, get the hell away from our program. We don't want to see it. Don't come in. don't come into the locker room. Don't hang around with us. Just get the hell away from us. And so, with Anthony Grant, that's the one that bothers me. I'll talk Tommi Hill here in a minute, but it really bothers me about Anthony Grant because, like I said, he's been our most productive running back. It sounds like maybe he's not going to class. Maybe his grades aren't where they need to be. Maybe he's gotten a little lazy on that front. But then again, and we both of us have paid a lot of attention to college football the last 50 years, 40, 50 years. There is a philosophy out there that deal with JUCO players at your own risk. And there's a reason why football players end up at junior colleges. There's a reason for that. Generally, it has to do with grades coming out of high school, or it has to do with study habits that they have not developed, priorities, that type of thing, or maybe they got in trouble. So, am I totally shocked that a junior college former JUCO player is in trouble or, suspended? I guess not totally shocked, but I'm very, very frustrated because I thought that Anthony Grant, should come into this spring to win the job at running back. And, after what we heard today, boy, suspended, that's one thing. But with the praise that some of these other running backs got, Grant's going to find himself way down the depth chart.
We have a lot of them. Yeah,
we do. We do. Tommi Hill, on the other hand, I'm not surprised at all. I think Tommi Hill, he does, even when we saw him play in the spring game last year, John, he just did not strike me as the most disciplined player in the world. I think Tommi Hill kind of marches to his own drummer. I think that Tommi Hill kind of does what Tommi Hill wants to do. And apparently what he has been choosing to do since Coach Rhule came on board does not align with Coach Rhule's expectations. So, I'm frustrated by that.
Chris Hickman and James Carnie are gone, as is Tyreke Johnson.
Yeah. We didn't hear anything about him going in the portal. So does this mean they've just left the program?
I guess.
Or does it mean that they basically were told, you don't fit into our plans, go find something else to do? Does it mean that they've had some issues? I can't believe that the Carnie kid, from Norris has had any, behavior kinds of problems or something like that. I don't know. But there's two interesting things about this to me. First of all, that Tyreke Johnson, he transferred here from Ohio State. He was a 5-star defensive back coming out of high school.
Right.
And a lot of Nebraska fans thought, oh my goodness, we may have gotten something here. Well, hell, he never could break the starting lineup. And I don't even know where he ended up last year in terms of the depth chart, but the guy very rarely saw the field. So, ranking services aren't perfect. We all know that. But you kind of got to look at a kid who had 5 stars coming out of high school and consider that a bust. But the thing that is concerning to me is that both Carnie and Chris Hickman, those are tight ends. And tight end has kind of been a thin spot. Now, that isn't to say there isn't some quality. I mean, that Eric Gilbert, who transferred in from Georgia, Fedoni is healthy. Apparently, Matt Rhule is kind of keeping his reps kind of low so that he doesn't go out and get all banged up right away. You got A.J. Rollins from Creighton Prep, who came in with some accolades. But then the player who returns with the most experience playing for Nebraska, and I can't pronounce this kid's name, Borkercher.
Borkercher, yeah.
He's our most experienced tight end in the system. So,
we got
look great.
Two guys have been moved.
Well, isn't it interesting that they took an offensive lineman named Hokeson and they turned him into a fullback?
Well, wait. Jake Applegate has moved to tight end.
That's
And
true.
then Brody Tagola. Come on, I had this. Tagola. Sometimes things just go away, man. Anyway, 2 players moved to tight end that were tight end previously. And then you were saying about this other guy. Go ahead with that bit.
Yeah, offensive lineman Sam Hoskinson. That's what I meant. Hoskinson. His dad played. His dad was an offensive lineman at Nebraska. Apparently, he's had a difficult time putting on weight and keeping on weight. To get up in that 300-pound range. So the coaching staff looked at him and said, "We see a fullback there. We see a fullback."
Now,
So now Nebraska officially has a fullback on its roster.
it's not listed as fullback. He is listed as a running back. Now, here's the thing. On the roster, he's listed as a running back. The other key is on the roster is there's no more edge people.
Well, you got, it's terminology. Okay, we don't have edge players anymore, but we'll have players that play on the edge. They'll either be defensive linemen or linebackers that will play out there on the edge.
Well, I think they've shrunk all the things down to the bare minimum, so we don't have to think about the difference between edge and defensive ends. And I don't know. I thought it was refreshing, honestly. And then the other thing that happened is there are no single digits. Did you know that?
I knew that.
Okay.
There are no kind of cool, really.
Nobody gets a roster number or a jersey number in the single digits because apparently everybody thinks single digit numbers are cool and nobody gets them until they get voted for them. Is that what I've heard?
Well, there was something that they have to, number one, they got to earn them. It's not going to be something that's given. You just don't get to say, I want to wear number 4. Okay. So, they'll figure out some way that they're going to distribute those single digit numbers. And I guess he did the same thing at Temple and at Baylor. So I'm on board with that. I'm fine with that.
You know what I thought, Todd? You know what I thought? I had a thought about that. I thought the whole idea of taking those jerseys and putting them over here and only guys and the players have to vote who gets them is somewhat representative of the Unity Council in a very, very small way. In other words, you got to be accountable to your teammates. You have to fit in with your teammates. You have to do your job to basically your teammates have to reward you. Don't you think? Or is that a stretch on my part?
If
I'm looking for things
involved with the distribution of those numbers, that might be kind of interesting to see how that all shakes down. I think it is kind of interesting, because it does. And again, we're talking spring practice, that will ultimately culminate in a scrimmage at Memorial Stadium. But, when they put the new roster up there after they got rid of the single digit numbers, there's 3 number 10s. Now, Nebraska fans have gotten used to 2 of the same number, an offensive player and a defensive player. We've seen that for 30 plus years. But now there's 3 number 10s, a linebacker, a running back, and a quarterback. Well, the running back is suspended, so I guess no biggie there. But I haven't looked through the rest of the roster to see how many different numbers. But who gives a crap when the teams put together when everything falls in place for the fall. We're going to see some single digit guys out there, I'll bet, and everything will take care of itself.
Oh my God, I lost my show notes. Okay. What else do we think about spring football? I put out a video about 7 storylines or something like that. And, Heinrich Harburg, I think, was basically said, what was it? He was going to leave, and then he sat down and talked to the coaches, and he might be up for a position change. And he's a guy I think I hope sticks around, not because he's Nebraskan necessarily, but because, I don't know, he's a huge guy and he could play somewhere, you'd think.
Well, what I saw was that he's still in the quarterback room, but he would entertain, possibly moving to other positions. You're right. He's a big, solid, athletic kid. People automatically kind of think tight end. But, it will be, look, they have 98 scholarship players. So they still have to get down. They have to get rid of 13 of those scholarship players to get down to the 85. So there are going to be people that move on, and whether by their own choice or whether they have the conversation with the coaching staff, and the coaching staff says, what, we're not going to offer you a scholarship for next season. So that's going to happen. And I think I said a few weeks ago, with what, 6, 7 quarterbacks, they're not going to go into the fall with that many quarterbacks. Sims is going to stick around. Casey Thompson's going to stick around. And I think I said that I think Smothers will stick around.
What about Chubba Purdy?
I just kind of feel that Smothers will stick around. But I think Purdy, I think Harburg, possibly Torres, whether those guys stick around or not, I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if they leave.
Oh, you guys in the chat screw me up. I have my next thought, and then you put up something dorky, and it just like, meow. I'm easily distracted. Let's see what else happened in spring. No word. By the way, the portal does not open again until May 1st.
Right.
So
we might see some of those players decide to go into the portal. And with Hickman and Carnie, and Johnson, I don't want to insinuate that they got run off. I mean, I'm sure that they probably left on their own volition. But we don't know. We don't know what's going to happen with them. Something else with spring is, our favorite future quarterback apparently is going to be in town, next weekend, that Dylan Raiola is going to come to town, and they've got like 20 plus 5, 4, 3-star recruits. I mean, it's going to be like Lincoln, Nebraska is going to be taken over by high school juniors and seniors, hoping to be impressed, and we're all hoping that they'll be impressed and commit, to become Cornhuskers.
I saw somebody on Twitter that said everybody should wear Nebraska red when they're here to show their support, and I thought, isn't that what everybody does all the time anyway? What the hell? I mean, I haven't been down there for a while, so. Maybe not. Maybe they're all weighing. Maybe, Todd, everyone is wearing blue.
I don't.
We'll get to that in a bit. I just, try to throw it out there right now. Anything else about spring ball? What are you looking forward to?
Oh, I'm looking forward to seeing how things sort themselves out, with the new players that have come on board, a lot of the transfer players, where are they all going to fit in? I guess something I'm looking forward to that has nothing to do with, the assembling this team is I'm looking forward to hearing from these coaches. I mean, it's been refreshing to hear the members of this coaching staff, talk, and they're pretty upfront guys. They've got a little bit different attitude than what we've seen before, and I'm kind of looking forward to the press conferences to see what they have to say about the players and that type of thing. So,
did you get me a spring game ticket?
I have not gotten you a spring game ticket. It's going to be electronic anyway, so you just as well go in and get your own.
Yeah, but then I won't be able to sit with you.
I went to the spring game last year.
Yeah?
I go once every 22 years.
You're going this year. We're going together.
I may have plans that day, John.
There's
no
race.
baseball.
This is the first spring game under a new head coach. You have to go to the spring game. I thought you got me a ticket and I didn't have to worry about it.
Well, I haven't gotten anybody a ticket.
What the hell are you doing?
I just got a ticket for the Illinois
My
game
God,
Friday
my
night.
anxiety's overtaken me.
Well, you know,
See, right here I have a board right over here. There's a board right over there. It's a whiteboard, and it has important things for me to remember on it. Like, you know what's up there, Todd?
spring game.
It did, yes, it was a good guess. Todd has spring game ticket for me.
Oh, Jesus. Well, I'm sure as hell not going to.
You know what else is up there? You know what else is up there? There's 3 reasons why people write books, Todd. 3 reasons: to inform, entertain, or provide an escape for people. I keep that up there all the time to remind me, are you actually doing content that does any of these things for people? There's one up there for things remembering about headlines. The headlines have to be important on our content. And then there's a thing that says 29 millimeter because that's what my camera setting is when I shoot my videos up here. That way I don't have to remember. And then the other thing I don't have to remember all the time was Todd has spring game ticket.
God, you son of a bitch. You see, now the thing about this is, I mean, we've got everybody who's paying attention tonight. Thanks. I have no choice but to get you a spring game ticket.
That's exactly right. And probably drive me there.
I'll just give you the damn cell phone so you can go to the game.
Okay. I figured you were looking forward to going to this spring game because the last spring game we went to, they didn't actually play football.
No,
they played two-hand touch. Yeah, so this one I thought you go, oh God, I want to go to this spring game because they're probably going to actually play tackle football.
Well, you probably won't have to twist my arm very hard. But I hope it rains. I hope it rains.
What the hell kind of attitude is that?
Because I really don't want to go.
It's April 22nd, you crotchety old son of a bitch. It's a long ways. You could store up your energy. It's not like tonight when you're out of energy.
You know what? Probably, now that I think about it a little bit, it probably would be a good idea for me to go to the game and not have any contact with the baseball team because they're playing over at Iowa on that day. And I would just be a frantic, blithering idiot. Okay, yeah, I'll sacrifice. I'll get you your damn ticket.
Right. This is what. Oh, look, are you writing it on your whiteboard?
No, I'm putting it on my yellow pad.
Okay, your yellow pad. Good job. Okay. Cleansing breath. Cleansing breath. There you go. Okay, let's take some comments.
Before you put one up, there have been a couple of comments here. John doesn't have a press pass anymore.
I haven't asked.
John doesn't have media credentials anymore.
No, I don't. There you go. So Bradley, there you go. Can I borrow your press pass? I will write an article or something. No, because I don't have one. Joel Tilson says, Cranky John. I thought it was Cranky Todd. What the hell? Let's see.
Well,
what is going on with this? Wait a minute. Fred Sacco says, did he still cover the Patrick Duffy leg? No, he didn't. He had shorts on, and you could clearly see that he actually didn't have a Patrick Duffy leg, or it's interchangeable.
Time out.
Yeah?
What the hell's the Patrick Duffy leg? I've been under a rock, apparently.
Oh, my God. From South Park.
I'll check it out.
Bear Man Pig, I think it was, had Patrick Duffy for a leg. It's a bizarre thing. Okay, there's that one. Born-led corn-fed says, where will Ramir Johnson play? Yeah, he'll be a running back. I think I'm looking forward to that guy.
Yeah, I am.
I mean, I hope he sticks around. What is this deal with Shaka Smart that this guy is doing? Bradley Warnick, what are you doing? Is Shaka Smart going to be the next Nebraska ball coach? 10 years, $60 million. I don't think Nebraska wouldn't shell out that much money for a basketball coach.
Shaka Smart right now is coaching in one of the top 2 conferences in the country. He's not coming. I know this much about basketball. He seems to be very, very content up at Marquette. He's happy to be out of the rat race that was the University of Texas. I don't know. I thought we had a basketball coach. I know that Mr. Tilson made some comment about Hoiberg fired, but not that I'm aware of. I think we still have a basketball coach.
Yeah. Fred Sacco says Mike Rhule's staff calls the tight end fullback something different in their terminology. Is it H-back? I haven't looked at that yet.
Yeah, I don't know. No, Joel. John used to have a press pass.
Like Joel says, I thought John had a press pass being with Corn Nation. Here's the thing with this. I don't care to sit in a press box. So I don't know if they'd ever provide me with a press pass in the press box. I don't care to sit up there. I like being a photographer. I like being closer. I like being out of the building because when you're in the press box, it's really just, quite frankly, what's the word? Stale, quite honestly. I liked being a photographer because I was closer to things. And the honest to God truth is my balance, because of my brain injury, because of some of the problems I'm having right now, it's shitty enough that I am just I'm not going to go on a sideline.
Well, and truth be told here too, Corn Nation has a number of people that write articles for the blog and do the videos and stuff, and there's a number of them that do have press passes, but it's not like, at least what I'm aware of, it's not like a press pass is this permanent thing that all you have to do is go to the press gate and flash the press pass and you get in. You have to be allocated a press pass by the institution that's hosting the event. And I've had press passes to a few different events myself, and so it's also important that the big, quote unquote, big mainstream media people, they're always taken care of first. And, in some instances you have limited space for the media. And so they're not going to allocate, credentials just, to anyone who, wants one.
MK says, John, do you have to wear a disguise when you sit in the stands to keep people from bothering you with weird questions all game? I haven't been to that many games, honestly. I need to get out more. But I did go to the Nebraska Ole Miss baseball game. A few people, like 3-4 of them, came up and told me they enjoyed our YouTube comment, which I was thankful. But then that was it. I sat by myself. And, if you remember that episode, I said I almost passed out when Nebraska beat Iowa. That's why I sit by myself, because, you never know when I'm going to like this stuff and poke somebody's eyes out having a seizure about something. Todd's always in danger around me. You can ask him. Just go ahead and ask him. Todd, are you in danger?
Well, here's the reality is that in the last couple of years, and John and I don't go to that many events together, but whenever we are together at a Nebraska event, somebody recognizes John. And so he hasn't had to deal with groupies yet. I guess I'm kind of there to pick up the bras and the undies when those start getting thrown at him. But so far, that hasn't happened yet.
No.
But when the time comes, I'm ready. I'll take care of it.
Okay. We're gonna get okay. Let's see. Purdue, I got that one. Charles Hullett says Eddie Grant's brother going down to Electric Avenue. And see, this is one of those comments where I have a thought in my head and suddenly I'm doing Electric Avenues in my head.
We're gonna walk down to Electric Avenue. Yeah.
Yeah, see that? Now you're all screwed up. Okay. All right, Todd, we're going to do this. This was a question I actually had for you. Vince Watson says or asks, Todd, did the wrestlers perform over, under, or as expected in your opinion?
A little bit under my expectation. I think maybe I'd have to call that an expectation / hope. The truth of the matter is, and those people that pay close attention to college wrestling, and I mean, beyond fandom for the University of Nebraska or whatever team it is you cheer for, those 3 days are 3 of the toughest days in sports. I mean, that tournament is an absolute grind.
Yeah.
It is a meat grinder. And everybody who starts there in day one, 33 wrestlers in 10 weight classes, 330 guys. Every one of them, when they put their foot on the mat, has the goal of winning a national championship. We all know that the reality is that a fraction of those 330 have a legitimate chance. But when you look at what happened this year with the number of upsets that took place in round 1 and round 2 and round 3, and oh my God, in the semifinals in round 4, and the upsets didn't stop through Saturday night. I mean, I don't remember a tournament in recent years where there have been this many upsets. So with Nebraska, I think I said going into the tournament, I thought they had a legitimate chance to get a trophy. I did. I thought they did. And the way they wrestled on day one, they were in the thick of things. They were as high as 3rd place for a while, and they kind of settled in 4th for a while. But then, the grind of the backside kind of caught up with them. And I guess when you look at it, congratulations to Mikey Labriola. He's a senior. He's used up all his eligibility. He got 2nd place on 174 pounds. He's the first Nebraska finalist. Well, I guess not. Ridge Levitt was last year, but we haven't had that many finalists. Now, he was going up against Carter Starachi, who, of the 10 champions, I would have to say I would rank him number 2 or number 3 in terms of quality. And Carter Starachi is going to be an outstanding international wrestler. So, I know that Mikey got pinned in the finals. It happens. But, good for Mikey Labriola. The one that I was really, really bummed for was Silas Alred at 197. He wins the Big Ten championship, but he was only seeded 8th. I mean, that 197-pound weight class was crazy. It was just absolutely insane. And he had to go up against the number 1 ranked guy, this Nick Bonacorsi from Pitt, who was just wrestling lights out. He'd been a finalist a couple years ago, and he beat Allred. And then in the backside, Allred ran into Jeremy Warner from Iowa, who he had beaten. But Jeremy, Mr. March Warner, won 1-0. I mean, that guy, he knows how to wrestle in the national tournament. And so Silas Alred is not an All-American, and I felt for sure that he deserved to be. Brock
Wait.
Yep.
Nebraska ended up with 5 All-Americans?
4 All-Americans.
4 All-Americans. And what do you have to do to be an All-American in wrestling?
Got a place in the top 8. Okay. Liam Cronin was 5th at 125. Brock Hardy was 6th. He had to medically forfeit that 5th place match at 141, and then Peyton Robb was 6th. He medically forfeited as well. Those guys were just beat to bits. Peyton Robb wrestled like the Peyton Robb that I saw last year and at the beginning of this year. And I've said before on this show, I was really frustrated. It seemed like Peyton Robb, as soon as he was ranked number 1 in the country, he wrestled not to lose rather than to win. And then, he got beat in the finals of the Big Ten tournament. And so he had nothing to lose. Peyton Robb wrestled very, very well in the national tournament. Just didn't go his way, though. So 8th place by the team, that's nothing to sneeze at. So
Is this like volleyball? I
How
mean,
so?
with volleyball, if they go out in the top 16 this year, and we're all like, what a shitty year for volleyball.
No,
I
this
mean,
was a good.
do we have the same expectations for the wrestling program, even though not as many people pay attention?
No, I don't think so. I think an
Okay.
eighth place finish with this team this year. No one expected this. I mean, Mark Manning should be Big Ten Coach of the Year, if not National Coach of the Year. No one expected this. When you put as many new guys in the lineup as he put out there this year, or some of the veterans who were there, like Lee and Cronin, who had never wrestled at the same level they wrestled this year, they did an outstanding job. If anybody's upset with Nebraska wrestling, get a life. But that wrestling tournament, it was crazy, just
Okay,
crazy.
you haven't brought up the one thing.
And what thing would you like me to bring up? I could bring up a lot of things.
All of Twitter went insane on Spencer Lee lost.
Yeah. Well,
And here's the thing before you start, well, I'll say this. I hate Iowa with a passion. But sometimes you look at athletes and you go, okay, you know what? My hate is transcended by respect for some of these athletes. And Spencer Lee was a guy who, how many matches in college did he lose?
well, he didn't. He lost 5 total. But Spencer Lee was a prohibitive favorite, and I'm not gonna. I could talk the rest of the show and then some about Spencer Lee. Spencer Lee is an incredible young man. He's an incredible wrestler who he overcame some horrendous injuries and still was able to compete at an incredibly high level. 2 years ago, folks, he won a national championship with ACLs torn in both knees, and he won. I mean, that is amazing. And he took last year off to try to heal. But, Spencer Lee was pinned in the semifinal round by a kid named Matt Ramos from Purdue, and shocked the world. And, like for myself, I even texted some people and said, I don't even want to watch anymore tonight. I was so bummed, just sick. And, I'm sure a lot of people, especially my age, maybe a few of you guys that are younger there, listen, you heard the name Dan Gable. And when I was in second grade, Dan Gable had not been beaten in high school. He had not been beaten in college. And he wrestled in the national finals against Larry Owings from Washington. Now, that was back before cable television, social media, any of that kind of stuff. And I can't even remember. Oh, they were wrestling in Chicago, I think, is where the Nationals were. But, I'm in second grade. I went to bed, and I remember clear as day when I got up that morning and my mom told me that Dan Gable got beat. Dan Gable has never been able to put that loss behind him. He never has, and he never will.
Really?
And I think that Spencer Lee getting beat in the way that he got beat is perhaps going to have the same impact on him. Now,
Now,
hopefully, he wins gold medals at the Olympics.
now the most of the internet saw the reaction of his mom, which is
Yeah.
complete horror, and then she snaps her glasses to pieces.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people look at that and kind of think, well, she's a lunatic or something like that. I guess I looked at it and thought, well, she's a mom, for God's sakes. That's what she is.
She is a mom, but she also was she was an elite level athlete herself. She was an alternate for the Olympics in judo. I mean, I'll tell you what, and I've said it before. People that compete at that level, they're different from you and me. Those people have a level of intensity, a level of clarity, a level of focus that we don't have. We don't have it.
But I was going to write something on my board, but I guess I'm going to show right now. Okay, let's see what else we got going. What else happened this week? The
Well,
Nebraska women are in the basketball team. The women's basketball team are in the NIT. They have beaten Missouri State 74-65, Northern Iowa 77-57. So, decent wins. I guess they're still in it. Do we know anything more about that?
good for them. I just don't know how the NIT works. So have they, maybe one of the listeners knows who they're playing next. I haven't seen that. But, it's good for the Nebraska women. It's fun to see teams, play in the postseason when, they can play relaxed and have fun. Well, here's a basketball question for you, John. You
Yeah.
cheering for Creighton next weekend?
We weren't ready to go there yet. We still
I
have.
don't know if you're going to cheer for Creighton.
Okay, here. Oh my God. Jack the Ripper said, "Who cares about wrestling? Boys grabbing boys in public." Jack, wrestling has been around since humanity. There you go. That's, let's see. Don Dre, that guy you wrestled or something, says, "Heading for the Elite Eight, go Blue Jays." And, other people, I just unchecked one of the comments that by mistake that I wanted to respond to. Am I cheering for Creighton? My hate for Creighton has been just slightly below my hate for Iowa. And when I first started recovering from my heart attack and I had to explain to people what happened to me, I would tell them part of my heart is dead because part of my heart is dead. It was blocked for too long. So I literally have part of my heart being dead. And then I used to follow it up with, they would ask, "Oh, what do you mean by part of your heart is dead?" And I would respond, "The part that had any love for Iowa or Creighton." A lot of times they wouldn't be a sports fan and they just look at me like, the dog farted or something. And, but am I going to root for Creighton? They're against Princeton, aren't they?
Yeah.
What if I said yes, Todd? What if I said, yes, I hope Creighton beats Princeton?
Well, good for you.
Do you think that just because Creighton's in Nebraska that I should root for him?
No. That's because I lived 56 years of my life in Iowa. And I was conceived an Iowa State Cyclone. And when you live in a state where there are two major universities, you love one, you hate the other. And it's all black and white.
Okay,
now, there's people in Iowa that say, well, I'll cheer for the Hawkeyes except when they're playing Iowa State. Then you're not a fucking Iowa State fan. Iowa State fans, you can't do that. So the closest thing that Nebraska has to an in-state rival is Creighton. So how can you cheer for Creighton?
Well,
because
I
they're
was
from Nebraska.
I
don't think you can. Just like, do you cheer for? Oh, gonna cheer for UNO. I'm gonna cheer for Omaha.
Our baseball writer Aaron Rostapowski says, "Why do you want a rival to do good?" You know why, Aaron? Because if Creighton continues to do well, we can still bask in the fact that we beat them. Yeah,
beat them bad. We
beat them bad. We made them feel bad all the way up until this point. They're playing Princeton. You know what? Who has the best prospect of beating Alabama? Because I don't think Princeton stands a chance.
I don't know. Creighton probably has a better chance than Princeton. Well, now you got me thinking, damn it.
Okay, Roger Moore says Nebraska doesn't care about basketball. T-shirts have sold out on John's store. When will they restock? We'll get them right out there. You guys should go buy a T-shirt or two, though. I haven't pushed that at all lately. I keep thinking I'm going to redo the website slightly, but uh, I, I, I don't even know where my graphic is for that. Bob Maston says, how's Creighton's football team? Non-existent, Bob. I still get crap for that. The April Fool's article we did for that fooled some real media people. Okay, so you went right ahead into the Creighton. Are you going to root for Creighton thing? Purdue. Have you been watching the tournament?
John, I had a direct connection to that Purdue thing.
Oh, you did. Tell us about it, Todd.
Tobin Anderson, who is the head coach at Fairleigh Dickinson, who now he's the hottest interview in college sports.
I heard that they were changing their name.
To what?
From Fairleigh Dickinson to Extremely Dickinson. Okay. Go tell us about Tobin Anderson.
Tobin Anderson graduated from I-35 High School in Truro, Iowa, where his dad was the high school basketball coach. South of Des Moines. Before his dad was the high school basketball coach at I-35, he was the high school basketball coach, high school baseball coach, and math teacher at none other than Oakland High School in Oakland, Iowa, just 20 miles east of Council Bluffs. And in 1977, he became my head baseball coach, and he was my head baseball coach for 3 years. And I learned more about coaching. I learned more about baseball. I learned more about the organization and planning that goes into running a program from Steve Anderson, who was Tobin's dad, Steve Anderson, than anybody else that any other coach I had. He was outstanding. Steve died about 4 or 5 years ago. And the last time I saw him was the state basketball tournament when he came to watch the son of a friend of mine. And it's one of those things where you regret, never having taken the opportunity to, maybe reach out to one of those teachers that you had, one of those coaches that you had, when you get older and you kind of reminisce a little bit. And, for anybody that's listening and watching, I'm a retired teacher, retired principal, retired coach. Don't wait. If there's one of those coaches, if there's one of those teachers that made a profound impact on your life, if they're still around, drop them a note, give them a phone call, see if you could sit down and have some conversation with them. Because, I've done that with some of my teachers, but the most important coach in my life was Steve Anderson. The most important teacher in my life was John Cannon. And they both died before I had a chance to ever thank them and ever just talk to them about what kind of an impact they had on my life. Tobin Anderson was in 3rd or 4th grade when his dad was my coach. And I remember him walking around, and what's so scary and eerie is he's the spitting image of his dad, not only the way he looks, his physical appearance, but when you hear him talk, he's got the same, he's got the same cadence. He's got it's just crazy. And when my brother watched him the other night, my brother he was just beyond himself. He said, "Oh my God, it's the second coming of Coach A." So, yeah.
So he had a quip before the Purdue game stating the more I watch Purdue, the more I think we can beat them. And it got out into public, and Purdue Twitter was very unhappy with it. Purdue Twitter was very unhappy with everything.
What the
And
hell is that? What's he supposed to tell his players in the locker room?
I don't know. I thought it was kind of funny.
Guess what? We get Purdue. And I think if we can stick within 20 points of those guys, I think we might be able to consider that somewhat of a moral victory. So let's really prepare hard over the course of the next couple of days so that when we play Purdue, we can stay within 20. Jesus.
It was the Rotten Son Isaiah says that it was the biggest upset in college basketball history.
Sure.
And because Farley Dickinson, extremely Dickinson, was very down the NET rating. They didn't win their own conference because Merrimack was the conference winner, but they were transitioning to D1 and they weren't eligible. So Purdue, there's a part of me, Travis Miller for years ran the SB Nation site Hammer and Rails, and I've always liked him. He's always been a friend of mine. And one of the things when I talk to him, when we talk sports, is how many times Purdue has just been gutted. And this is the biggest gut for them of all time. I mean, for anybody. And it was amazing to watch that game and just see, like in the second half of that game, that Purdue's 3-point shooters were terrified to shoot the ball.
They were.
It was amazing. They just they got mentally into that point where they. And then the other thing I wanted to ask anybody who understands basketball better than I did, when Farley Dickinson, extremely Dickinson, I need to get used to my own stuff. When they pressed, Purdue always brought Zach Edey, the giant tall guy, up to mid-court. They brought him up to mid-court, and he would stand there and block a guy. Why wouldn't you just keep him down by the basket? You just throw the ball to him. I didn't understand anything Purdue did in that game. Fred Sacco says, where the hell is that? I bet extreme. Go ahead.
I bet Extremely Dickinson was John's college band at the sidetrack. Fred, that's you get a gold star tonight. That's just classic. And the fact that you remember that John and I spent an inordinate amount of time at the sidetrack when we were in college. That's great. Oh my God. Here's and I'm not a basketball guy either, but Tobin Anderson said something that makes a lot of sense to me. One of the reasons why he was incredibly confident was because Purdue, and he said it along these lines, Purdue has two freshman guards. They're going to be outstanding players someday, but they're still freshmen. And he says, and I got 2 5-year seniors. That makes a world of difference. And when you say they're 3-point shooters, I mean, they froze. I mean, it was everything from game management to turnovers and all those types of things. And what it was a fun game to watch. I mean, my goodness gracious, that the Farley Dickinson team, they could just explode down. Did you watch them play Florida Atlantic last night? I mean,
no, I didn't.
That was an insane game until about the last 2 or 3 minutes when Florida Atlantic, they pulled away and won it pretty handily, pretty easy. But you talk about excitement. Oh, my goodness gracious. Those guys, they were given some kind of statistics about how many changes in possession there already were at a certain point in the game. And they were saying, this is just absolutely nuts. These two teams are just going. Really fun.
They were fast. They were also the shortest team in America.
The shortest team in America. And they had players out there, including the 2 guards, who were Division II players last year. That kind of tells you maybe the depth and quality that does exist out there is a little bit deeper than some of us think, but I think it also says how important quality coaching is. How important a coach is, from everything to assembling the team to how he motivates the team to how they game plan. It's incredibly important. So
is he going to be the next head coach at Nebraska?
Nebraska's got a coach. Everybody's trying to replace Fred.
Oh, goodness.
Hey, Don Dre asked, do you remember when the School of the Blind had a wrestling team? I remember when the School of the Blind in Iowa had a team and in Nebraska, but Don, I don't know if you're also referring to the Iowa School for the Deaf over in Council Bluffs. When I was in high school and for a couple years after that, they had a very, very salty wrestling team, Iowa School for the Deaf, and they had at least one state champ. Jackie Barron was a state champ in Iowa. But they were tough.
I had another thought. Another chat thing went by, and then okay, let's see. Bob Maston earlier asked, "What are the chances of Riola coming to Nebraska?" Because we had to say Dylan Raiola because that is the story of spring. When I did my storylines of spring, what I said specifically in that video is that recruiting is one of the biggest stories. But it's not a story about this year. And, I get everybody's excited about Dylan Raiola. We're going to find out. I mean, they have this big, huge recruiting thing going on this weekend, March 25th coming up. And I'm sure there's going to be so much stuff around it. But keep in mind, it's still a long ways away before any of that stuff happens, before any of it has any impact on our program whatsoever. I guess for me right now with the spring practice and spring game coming up and too many players on our roster, I get that Dylan Raiola is a huge thing, and I hope we get him, but I wonder what's going to happen if he decides to go to USC or Georgia. Everybody just going to fall apart?
Well, Tom Chattel says that he could be as important of a recruit as Tommy Frazier was and could have the same kind of an impact that Tommy Frazier had.
Did Tommy Frazier bring a whole shitload of players with him?
Yeah, apparently, once Tommy Frazier got here, Osborne and his staff were able to recruit a little bit higher caliber player to go with him. I don't know. I'm just regurgitating what Chattel said.
Well, I don't disagree with that, but it's still a year. It's a long ways off.
Yeah.
We have this 2023 season is going to come up, and we're going to play it. And toward the end of it, we might find out if Dylan Raiola is actually going to come to Nebraska because he will sign a letter of intent. That's what the letter is about. It's saying this, I really am committed to this. Otherwise, it's just blabbering. That's what it is. See these blah, 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 blah. And I realize it's important. I realize it's a big story. But I really want to, I guess I look at it and I go, okay, we're setting ourselves up for not having nice things again. I don't know. Well, I want us to win in 2023. I want us to win. Yeah. I think I said this somewhere. Listen, it's March. Right now, we are a 6-6 going to a bowl team. By the end of March, we are a 7-5 team. After the spring practice, we're going to be 9-3, and by August we are 10-2. And I want that in 2023. I know that Matt Rhule's first years at Temple and Baylor were really bad. Well, I don't want that. It's about what John wants. You sons of bitches. Charles Hullett says, I remember that buzz when Mickey Joseph came to campus. It was a huge deal. It was a huge
I remember
deal.
that too.
I remember, that they got Mickey Joseph was giant.
I'll just say this. I hope Dylan Raiola picks Nebraska, but I'm not going to obsess about this. I'm not going to hang on every word. I'm not going to hang on every word that somebody writes or somebody talks about Dylan Raiola.
We're almost out of time, Todd, but Roger Moore comes in with, if Raiola comes to Nebraska, Mad Mike will come back with his drum in the stands.
That would be worth it. That would be worth it.
Did we not have a plan at one point to kidnap Mad Mike?
We could have. I don't remember.
Because he came up by our student section all the time.
He did. Yeah, he always came up right around. Oh, God. I'd forgotten about Mad Mike.
Yeah. See, well, you try to think about your potential. You try to put the potential felonies you almost committed in the rearview mirror. That's how I live anyway. Yeah, I congratulate myself sometimes for not punching that guy in the face. Okay. Okay. James Marshall says 9-3 will be very difficult. Not by August. That's what the Kool-Aid is for, James. That is what the Kool-Aid is for. And that's why you shouldn't drink it until like August. Okay, we're at an hour. Is there anything else we missed? We really didn't talk about baseball.
No, we really didn't. Bryce Matthews, Big Ten Player of the Week.
Yeah.
They had 2 wins and 1 loss against Nicholls State in one of the goofiest home series that we've had, that was played down in Manhattan, Kansas. Creighton tomorrow night here in Omaha. And then they open Big Ten action this weekend against Illinois. So
I know one thing I was going to bring up with you, even though it's past the hour. Do you remember years ago in Colorado when we got into an argument about a restaurant because you got mad at me when I said that the internet would change everything about education because teachers would no longer be the sole source of information? And we argued about that very vocally in a Colorado. I can't remember where we were. Why were we there? Anyway, do you remember that argument?
I don't remember, but it would not surprise me. It does not surprise me at all that we would have had that argument and loud.
Okay. I'm going to ask you this question. I belong to a bunch of heart attack survivor groups on Facebook, and I try to help people with heart attacks. TBI survivor groups, same thing. I'm also the member of a lot of author groups because, I've written 2 books. I'd like to write some more. The author community is going insane about artificial intelligence.
Yeah.
And I'm going to ask you this. Right now, education teachers are going to have to wonder, did a kid write this story?
Yeah.
Or was it written by Chat GPT? GPT-4 is out. If that's the future that's in front of us, Todd, do we really care whether the kid wrote it?
I'm going to refer to the Oscar-winning film Idiocracy. And I'll let the premise of that film speak for me.
Okay, that's it? I thought you'd have a lot more arguments.
I mean, apparently it will not be necessary in the future for human beings to function at all. Machines will think for them. Machines will be able to do any, I mean, what will human beings do?
We'll come up with better ideas in our spare time.
That's what artificial intelligence will do.
We will take the menial tasks that take us so much time now, give it to artificial intelligence to complete, and we will have time for more things that we are passionate about and love.
And then artificial intelligence will say, "Fuck you, I'm doing the fun stuff." Oh, John.
We're not in a restaurant in Colorado. There's nobody can hear us if we're Well, I guess we have still 39 people. You think about that.
I'll ponder that.
Because you ponder that. I want you to ask other education people that because you're around them. I want you to honestly ask them what they think AI will do to the future of education. Realistically, not because we're upset that it's new or that we hate it or that it's going to take over. I want you to ask them, and when I come down to go to the spring game with you, my best buddy Todd, who has a ticket for me, we can discuss it then in more in more earnest.
I'll try that out. I'm going to be around some educators. Well, I am around educators every day. Okay.
Right.
We'll see.
Okay.
We'll see.
Okay. I looked at my whiteboard. I looked at my whiteboard.